Hello, everyone, and welcome to Sterling Live. My name is Caitlin Brower. I am Sterling's social media manager and your host for Sterling Live. I'm very excited for today's episode as I have a returning guest with us. I joked in my LinkedIn post about this that Jeff did such a good job a couple months back that I had to bring him back on. So Jeff Walmsley is back with us, people. He is the client success practice area leader for retail. And we are talking about something super hot within retail today. So we're talking about mergers and acquisitions and the need for comprehensive, background screening and why that is critical for, success within M&A and retail. So Jeff, thank you so much for joining me again. I told you you'd be back. You are back. But for our audience that may not know who you are, can you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Of course. Yeah, it's great to be back. I'm Jeff Walmsley. I am our practice leader for our retail clients. I manage both our client success partner team as well as our client success associate team, supporting all of our great clients. I've been with Sterling now about 9 years.
Love having people that have been here for a very long time on because you know your stuff, you know our client base, and you know the industry. So specifically within retail, we're going to do a deep dive again into M&A, but then some other trends that we're seeing going on in the industry as well. I do want to give our audience a quick reminder. If you are watching live on Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube, if you have any questions for Jeff throughout the episode, please go ahead and put them in the comment section across these platforms, and I will get them over to him as I see fit throughout today's episode. So let's go ahead and get started. So again, I brought up the retail industry and we're seeing some trends here. We're here to talk about mergers and acquisitions within this industry. So can you talk a little bit more about the trends you're seeing with mergers and acquisitions, whether it's, with specific clients or other organizations, because there's a lot going on.
Yeah, there is a lot going on. It's exciting to be in the retail industry. It's really definitely a time for change. We've seen over $100 billion just in the last 12 months in acquisitions, which is significantly more than prior years. So obviously a lot going on, and it doesn't just impact the clients going through that M&A activity or the prospects going through that M&A. It really impacts the whole industry. There's trickle down effects with some of the deals of this magnitude, and it's for a multitude of reasons. Some are just looking to expand into different markets, maybe international markets they weren't in before. We have other maybe previously brick and mortar retailers that are looking for a more hybrid online-based model. And then we have some that just are finding like companies that they already had, previously independent business models that were very similar that they could bring together to either increase market share or maybe just reduce some internal redundancies. But regardless of the reason, we have resources in place to help and, assist with future state growth as well as throughout the transition.
Yeah. So speaking of that support in place, from a background screening perspective, how do you think we are best supporting our retail clients as they go through, big mergers and acquisitions?
Yeah, it's on a number of different fronts. Some of them, people might not instantly think of off the top of their head. Things like our corporate due diligence. Mm-hmm. I think that's a logical first step for people to take. And what that does is, ensure that the company that you're about to venture in with is who you think they are effectively. Right. Someone might look good numbers wise on a spreadsheet and you might think it's a good idea, but what else is going on with that company that you could and should be aware of if you use a service like Diligence? And this was a few years ago, but I was on site with a client and we were talking about Diligence and they had no idea that it existed. They were a relatively newer client. And as we were digging into it, they color kind of drained out of their face. And we could have used this. And I said, tell me more about that.
Right.
And they made an acquisition of a company that, again, on the surface, they thought was a great deal. But then once news broke, they came to learn that company was really tied to like a shady type of zoo overseas with bad treatment. Yeah. They didn't know any of that. They're like, we could have avoided this had we just done a little more due diligence.
Right.
And it's like, yeah, that's what we do. We're here to help. But then we take that a step further. So you've already agreed, okay, this company makes sense. What about from a personnel standpoint? You might need some new board members. There might be some C-level changes. We have that executive investigation on a personnel level as well, because those are can't miss positions. Those are people that are steering the entire future of your company, and it's worth investing in making sure that you want them to do that they're representative of your company values and that you're in good hands. So that's step one. I think leveraging diligence. And then from there, it's a combination of our customer support team, near and dear to my heart, and our professional services and our implementation folks to make sure we get it right the first time. We really don't want to have to go back and unravel things, because I think a lot of times companies find that initially they're like, well, let's just do things the way we did it before. It's quicker, it's easier. We're accustomed to that. It reduces that fear of change. And it's like, well, no, this is really a chance to hit the reset button and do it the way you've always wanted to do it, or do it the way you could and should be doing it. And that's really where we're here to help and where we shine, because my team gets involved, immediately on those deals for benchmarking recommendations, and we're the liaison to the implementation and the integration folks, and really bringing everything together in an efficient way. And I think making recommendations and benchmarking is invaluable part of this relationship. And Caitlin may have frozen on me, but I can talk more about the benchmarking. I mean, I encourage clients to really think about kind of an ideal end state when any type of M&A happens, and then we can work backwards from there, because it's more than just, okay, how do we get the integration set up? There a lot more goes into that. So things like, access rates for users, or maybe even the hierarchy of accounts. Caitlin, I think you're back.
I am. Sorry.
No, you're completely fine. I'm just segueing into some ways that we do some benchmarking and some recommendations outside of just like, okay, we need the integration set up. There's a lot more that goes into that. So thinking of that hierarchy structure, how you want to roll the program out. Maybe it's regional, maybe it's on an individual location. Maybe you have certain users that should only be privy to certain aspects of a consumer report, or you only want them to work on random drug testing programs or DOT programs. I mean, there's a lot of bells and whistles and levers you can pull that go into that. And like I said, we want to get it right the first time. So we want to lay out all those options and then get the project plan in place, execute an SOW, and work backwards and make sure that you're hitting your go live as quickly as possible. But again, with thought in mind, and you're doing it the way you want to do it, not just doing it to get it done fast.
Yeah, I mean, bringing in an expert like Sterling too, like a merger and acquisition is massive. You're doing so much behind the scenes as a business to get, like you said, get your go live date in order and to actually have it go through. So bring in an expert like Sterling that can help you with not what you're going to do in the future, obviously with bringing in like newer employees and background screening, but like you said, executive investigations, due diligence, so much going into kind of before the actual deal takes place. So bringing in an expert like Sterling is absolutely critical.
Right. And listen, we fully recognize we are a smaller part of an entire M&A activity.
Yeah.
But the work we do impacts a lot of different departments on both sides of that M&A activity. So the sooner we can be looped into that, the better we can help assist.
Yeah, we do stress that a lot. I think, we had a due diligence episode a couple of weeks back, and that was the most important thing to get across in the episode of just bring us in as soon as possible, tap Sterling for any type of insights, any type of implementation. So I'm happy that you brought that up as well, because I know it's something that we stress for sure.
Definitely.
So you went through like the structure, of how we're supporting, how our teams jump in and help during, M&A. It's clearly critical, but are there any other like outlying benefits for an organization to bring in Sterling during something like this?
Yeah, I think that whole reset button is great. I mean, there's going to be inherently differences between the two companies, or maybe more than two companies, coming together between what they're currently doing and what they want to be doing. Mm-hmm. So sometimes we're kind of the tiebreaker in that regard, because again, we have not only maybe an existing client's program that we can factor in, but the benchmarking of every retail client that we work with. And we can show you, this company's done it this way, the way you're laying out, but here was the end result. And do you want that to happen? That can be avoided if we do X, Y, and Z. And I think that in itself goes just hitting the pause button and say, did you ever think about it this way? Like that's a good baseline right there. But then just the ability to like rebrand things in their own way. Like you want to get this rollout right
Right.
It's a big announcement, right? So making sure like the packages are position specific and you're running the appropriate services on the appropriate positions, not only from a safety and health of the workplace environment for both employees and consumers, but also from like a cost and turnaround time standpoint. We can mitigate those dependent on the position you're looking to hire for. So the more you just kind of loop us into the conversations and pull the curtain back, we'll do the same with you and say, yeah, this is how others have done it, and here's the results it's yielded. And the great news is, like, with all the options we have available, we're flexible too, and we can pivot and we can make changes if need be, and those are all tracked and measured. So again, I think that ideal end state goes a long way, because a lot of clients go into this thinking that they're shoehorned into going one or two routes. It's like, no, it doesn't have to be that way at all. Right. There's an infinite amount of options here. And so let's not limit ourselves by only thinking we can do one or two things.
Yeah, really tailoring it to the client and what they need during this time and during this, kind of massive change to the organization. I want to switch lenses here real quick. So from a different perspective. So I'm a candidate. What does it look like for me when, we're jumping in and we're assisting during a time like this?
Yeah. It's interesting. A lot of people would think when we were doing rollouts and enhancements that we're doing it from the lens of the client first. And really, more often than not, we're doing it from the applicant perspective, because we survey clients constantly and we're like, what would improve? What would make your lives easier? What do you guys want us to focus on? And like 9 times out of 10, they're like, make the applicant experience great. Polish that first. And that's what we do. So it's, like I said, branded to fit the new company or maybe the existing company's name. So it's very polished, because a big reason why we know we're an extension of our client base. Like, more oftentimes an applicant's first interaction with that company they're trying to get hired at is through our platform. They're clicking on one of our links in their email or in their text message, which again is another great applicant experience. To be able to text that person the link to complete their information, go through, sign their disclosure and consent forms, provide all that PII. Relatively newer in the industry to be able to do that for a number of different reasons, technology, compliance, things like that. But we do it, and it's beneficial in retail. We're finding more and more that applicants aren't relying on emails. A lot of them in retail don't even have email addresses. So how do we reach these people?
Yeah, that's a good point.
And that text goes a long way. I mean, I wish I could be one of those people that said I'm not completely relying on email, but I am. So I would be checking my email, but I'd also appreciate getting a text. So we do both. We send it to the applicant at the same time. It gets through quick and easy. We can layer in identity solutions, which I know, you've done extensive sessions on Sterling Live about our identity solutions, which are first class, but those are embedded right into the workflow and, very quick to get through. So everything is fast and efficient, which in retail, speed is king. Everyone's vying for the same applicant. Yeah. So being able to get those people through the process quickly, or even maybe you're having a job fair and you want to keep them on site, you can say, hey, we want to extend you an offer. And oh, by the way, go complete this right now.
Right.
You're not running the risk of them going, down the road and applying someplace else.
Yeah.
So applicant experience is paramount in our world.
Yeah, and it makes sense, especially too to highlight, the busy season coming up. So speed, like you said, is super important. So again, making sure that you have the right partner in place to make sure the candidate experience is good, and like retail organizations can bring as many people in as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I think it's also important to give candidates and applicants like visibility into where they are at in the process. And our candidate hub allows that. They can see, not necessarily the details of every order, but at least where they're at and when to expect some resolution there and hear from their potential hiring manager. And that's been a great benefit to the clients themselves too, because now they're not fielding those questions of like, hey, where is this at? It's like the client can log in and see exactly. And there's also all the obviously compliance benefits of being able to push things out to applicants directly in that candidate hub too. So it's a very polished experience that our clients and applicants love.
So you mentioned identity verification. I want to tap into a little bit more, from an innovation standpoint. Feel free to tap into identity a little bit more. But is there anything new or anything else that's new or innovative that, we're doing in the retail industry, and then specifically within background screening?
Yeah, and some of it with retail ties into the reasons around M&A, especially looking to get into new markets, global international markets. We had the big Socrates acquisition. We have our own M&A in our world, right? So our own M&A,
We do.
our clients going through M&A, but we can really assist in Latin America. Obviously, the number one source there now for support. Oral drug testing, I think, has been pretty relevant across the board, but especially in retail, a huge uptick, whether it be instant kits or lab-based oral kits. I think that's been not only a time saver, but a money saver as well for a lot of clients. Because a lot of them, were suspending drug testing or rethinking drug testing programs as a result of COVID. And now they're really just reintroducing those now, a couple years past that. So they're looking for alternatives of ways, again, getting faster, getting cheaper. Oral solutions are a great way to go about that. Continuous monitoring is something I am personally pumped about. So post-employment programs. We have, obviously, a lot of retailers have driving positions, and we can not only do the MVR monitoring, but we could do criminal monitoring as well. So say you have employees going into customers' homes, you may want to do a little more than just the MVR monitoring, and we're here to support that with that. So that's like a completely new business line, let alone like a platform feature enhancement. That's a whole new line that's exciting to talk with clients about, because there's a big need for that. I think now more than ever in a remote environment that's predominant. Identity, you and I both mentioned, but that's cutting edge. That partnership has paid dividends for clients that were having those kind of deep fake concerns. But the nice byproduct, in addition to that, has been the amount of records that are reportable, because we're validating and locking in that PII on the front end. And it allows us to report more records, good data in produces good data out type of scenario. So that's been wonderful. Those are the main topics that have been relevant in retail. I think the M&A in itself has been kind of an innovative topic, because a lot of retailers or a lot of clients that we've assisted through this process, they didn't really see it on the horizon. Like a lot of times the folks that we're interacting with, they're not always the first to know of these deals. Like they're being made aware of it as kind of the general public is. And it's like, oh shoot, how do we do this? And it's like, well, just breathe. We've been through this with clients numerous times. So I think that change management and that approach that we take just gives clients a lot of assurance that, okay, I'm not in this alone. They've done this a million times at Sterling, and they've done it with clients that are similar to us. And so we're going to get through the other side in a better spot than when we even started before the M&A activity. And that's the goal for everybody.
Right. It was critical for us to do this episode today, as we've seen this trend really spike over the last couple of months, and even with the past couple of weeks. I know I work with your team, with a lot of information, content going on that's happening in the industry. And I feel like everything that we've been talking about in the last week or so has been M&A activity, specifically within retail. So we knew we had to get out here and talk about it, because this stuff is going on. There's probably something going on right now while we're live on this episode.
Oh, I'm sure.
So
I'm going to Google News alert and be like, well, I got it. Sorry, Caitlin.
Of course. No, exactly. So again, just the importance of getting with someone like Sterling and really creating that true partnership, because end to end M&A activity is going to take a while, and it's a big thing for an organization. And you had said, Sterling might be fitting in a little part of it, but having that true expert there is really going to help that little part get along much quicker. So
it's a little part that can have a huge impact. So
absolutely.
And like we said earlier, the sooner we're involved in that, the more impactful we can be, cascading across the entire organization.
For sure. All right. So I want to let our audience know again, real quick, if you are watching live on Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube, if you have any final questions for Jeff, please go ahead and pop them over in the comment section across these three platforms. As we wait for any final questions to come in, Jeff, I'd love to get your final thoughts for today.
Final thoughts are, don't be scared of change. M&A activity is not going to stop anytime soon. There's projected to be more of it next year, not just retail specific, but especially in retail. And we're here for you. I think it's comforting to know that an organization with the size and the skill of Sterling has your back. So take us up on it, leverage us wherever you can, and we're here to help.
All right. Absolutely. I love always signing off saying we are here to help, because we are. You can always visit us on our social media platforms, on our website, sterlingcheck.com. We do have a page specific to retail. So you can go ahead and check that out. You can reach out to Jeff. You can reach out to anyone on our team, and we are here to help you for sure. At this time, we don't have any further questions. So Jeff, I want to thank you. I want to thank our live audience, anyone who's watching on demand. This was another incredible episode of Sterling Live. I love talking about timely matters because it does matter to our clients, to prospects, everything like that. So Jeff, thank you so much for joining me on this episode. And I hope to have you on another one in the future.
With the third one booked.
We'll do that now. Thank you, everyone. And I'll see you probably, I think, in 2 weeks for our next episode. So thank you again.
Thanks, everyone.